to the Reimagine Mobility podcast series. I'm here with Bibhrajit Halder, and he is from Safe AI. Bibhrajit, you work in a space that everybody's still talking about, and it's not EV, it's still autonomous. We're still talking about it. But as opposed to many that we've had the pleasure with welcoming at the show, and also that the industry is heavily talking about, which is the Waymos of this world, maybe the Cruise of this world, Lyft and Uber, autonomous vehicle delivery and goods deliveries. You're on the heavy-duty side, or at least on the heavy equipment side, and how you help companies through Safe AI, your company, make things autonomous. So for our listeners, give us a little bit of a background, where you're coming from, and then certainly what is Safe AI doing?
Absolutely. First of all, Stefan, thank you for having me. You guys, I saw some of your earlier show. You guys doing a phenomenal job. And I tell everybody, like, when you see this thing, it looks like, oh, it's easy, you're just talking. I know how much work goes in the back. So really, really appreciate the work you guys are doing. I think just to very quickly, what we do, but let me pick up where you started, that robotaxis and all. One thing is that autonomy been going on for almost 30 years. And I've been involved about 25 of those 30 years, right? I've been doing it for over 25 years now. And US, defense industry was using autonomy in 90s. Like a lot of technology, internet, GPS, it's a very similar. They're like, we are already using it. It's amazing. Can we give it to the non-defense use case? And this is what got started. And I was involved when it got started. Before any other industry, heavy industry actually picked it up before anybody else. So the mining, construction picked it up even before your Google. And I'll give you a little bit of history just to set things up. I think Caterpillars and Komatsus were doing autonomy back in early 2000, 2006, 2007. I was part of that. And the reason being, in this industry, it's a very constrained environment, high safety concern, remote part of the world, and it's really doing a very repetitive job. Like if you put it all together, it's like, no brainer. That I want to do autonomy in a more constrained area. I want to do it in an area where 24/7 doing the same thing, and it's a very unsafe. So it's a no-brainer. That's why this industry started first. Just to set the statistics up, there is about 2,000 vehicles, fully autonomous, no remote control, human operator, human oversight, been running for last 15 years. They move 10 billion tons of material, not a single fatal accident. So that's kind of the background. So with that background, what we do at SafeAI, I was part of the Caterpillar and Ford and Apple. Really, we are saying that passenger vehicle, as you mentioned, Waymos and Lyfts of the world, one of the things they did amazing job, they raised the bar of technology to a different level. We, in our world, we call Autonomy 2.0. Really at SafeAI, we are taking this latest and the greatest Lyft and the Waymos of type of technology back into the heavy industry and accelerating their use of autonomy. So let me pause there. We can see, but that's kind of what is our vision.
That's perfect. So, and you're already alluding to it, autonomous or automated, as some call it. I would call it's really autonomous. So for today's purpose, let's call it autonomous. It's not necessarily something new. Many people think it's been around 5 years, maybe a little bit more. I agree with you. I've worked in manufacturing plants that, frankly, autonomous robots were moving things from one line of the assembly to the other side, and et cetera. So not quite the vehicles, and certainly not with the sensors we have today, but nevertheless, they drove autonomous. They stopped when he jumped in front of them and all of these things. So maybe let's jump in what you mentioned. You mentioned that in the heavy-duty space, or in, again, mining, for example, agricultural applications, and things that a Caterpillar does, a John Deere does, a Komatsu does, you have an ability in a maybe much more controlled environment, clearly, than for me driving from Detroit, let's say, to Chicago, right? But is it also not that you have a much stronger business case and a much stronger return on investment, because that equipment is used, as you mentioned, in some cases 24/7. It's in remote areas. Maybe difficult for workers to get there, difficult to get companies to send workers there to work. So the autonomous capabilities that are more and more now allowing us to automate things also benefit probably what you guys are doing, because it is more and more in demand now too, because the business is driving it and not necessarily out of a convenience type thing. So maybe share a little bit of thoughts on those areas.
Yeah, and I think the comments you started making, that you have been involved and you've seen autonomy long time, and it shows in your question, right, that you nail the two main point on this thing. First thing is that it is lot more easier, lot more repetitive. One of the biggest thing is that this is a private road, right? Think about a big mine, big construction site. So it's a private. The difference between private versus you driving from Michigan to somewhere is that we get to make the rule. What I mean by that, back in the days in 2012, 2011, 2012, we could not solve the problem of intersection management. We're like, okay, wait, if we have a network, how do we manage that? No, we didn't have enough juice in the onboard computing, so I cannot write that algorithm there. So we say, you know what? Let's make it easy. When there is autonomous car in an intersection, everybody don't have a right. Autonomy has a right. So I cannot do that in Michigan. I can't do that in Detroit. Like, I can't say my autonomous car will always have a right. People are like, no, this is a public road. You have to do. So I think that gives you immense advantage as a technology provider, right? Because you can control the environment. Second thing, what you are saying is absolutely right. And the way I say that autonomy is not about who needs it or who can use it. It's about who can pay for it. It's a high quality, high cost kind of technology. And think about mining industry, they do run 24/7. They pay their operator $500,000 per year per truck. And you compare that with the Uber, about 60K, 40K, 50K, whatever the number may be, per year per truck. So now you're competing against $500,000 versus 60, let's say 50K. Who can pay for autonomy? Obviously the $500,000 guy. I think this is why you saw heavy industry picked it up. So 2 points you mentioned is absolutely the two critical points.
Interesting. So touching upon a point that's been a big topic, I think generally speaking, as autonomous has sort of shifted from the 2018-19 timeframe when everybody in the passenger vehicle space said by 2020, 21, latest 22, you'll drive in an autonomous vehicle, right? And that time frame came and it went and nothing really happened, and everybody kind of scaled back and now is focused on ADAS, so level 2 and 3, right? Not necessarily 4 and 5. And it's sort of, I saw a shift maybe 3 to 5 years ago to the heavy-duty truck side. Again, return on investment much quicker maybe, but also clearly with the mindset, we need to do something in heavy-duty trucking on-road, not off-road, on-road, because we have a tremendous driver shortage coming up, or it's already here. Do you see the same thing in the space you're in mining, that you just mentioned it's a cost, right? It's a big cost you're paying an operator versus investing in a autonomous system that then allows you to do that not only 24/7, but for the next 2-3 years straight. Is there a labor shortage, so to speak, in the areas you work with that gives autonomous technology in your sector a further boost and a further importance as it relates to investment money flowing in, technology companies and operators focus on it, etc.? What do you see there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that'll give you the labor shortage kind of very acutely. I mean, think about in our world, we work in a remote parts of the world. A construction site, let's say you are building a new area, you're going to a new mine. These are never in the middle of downtown, right? It's a far away. Anywhere it's hard to get people there. Safety is a concern, huge concern. Actually, fatal accident happen significantly in this, much higher than any other industry. And the third part is that the productivity. One of the things is that this autonomy actually provide 20% productivity. You know, if you look at from the mining and construction point of view, let's say they're doing a project like $100 million 5 year, they can get the project done for $75 million in 4 years. So it's a fundamental shift. So there are both, I mean, when we go in front of mining and construction company, they're not asking why autonomy. They're like, how much are you going to charge? Do you have a support? If my parts break down, who is going to do my parts supply? They are asking like a real question. So you would not have any resistant, any mining company taking autonomy if you can provide. So that's why we are, I mean, really in our industry, we are the bottleneck technology provider. Like if we had all it ready, we would have go. And that's really our vision, to go as fast as we can providing the solution to the industry. Even at a general citizen, forget about mining construction, the way you want to think about, your city builds stuff, right? Airport, bridges, roads, and all. And you see they take 5 years. You'd rather get it done in 4 years, right? And less money. And where do you think the money come from? Your taxpayer dollar. So it is actually have a huge impact on the society. Let me kind of switch out on the scale back on the passenger side. You mentioned robotaxis and the trucking. The scale back happened, very, very interesting analysis is that investment dollar actually didn't scale back. What scaled back is that investment dollar was pouring into 60 company. So there is a lot of noise, a lot of buzz going on. So they're all kind of getting distributed. That 60 becomes 6 or 5. That's why there's a buzz went down, but the dollar did not go down. Right? If I'm spending $10 billion into this 60 company, I'm still spending $10 billion, but now I'm spending on those 5 company. And that's actually good for the industry because it's consolidating and you can see the winners coming up, right? Waymo is still running really well. You got the Zoos going well. So you will see lesser and lesser play because autonomy is never a game of 60 players. It is eventually going to be 2 to 3. It's like your iPhone versus Android and whatnot. So I think you will see the consolidation and that will be massively beneficial for the industry. We don't need 7 different companies writing the same algorithm, paying the engineer same money and just making the engineer life better. But that doesn't improve the society. So I think it is actually scaled back on a number of companies, which is actually a good thing.
Yeah, I agree with you that, having 60 solution providers makes it very difficult for customers, right? Let's say equipment OEMs or passenger vehicle OEMs to figure out which one is really the right one, right? And I think it dilutes somewhat from maybe pushing forward because it's difficult to figure out who's on first, who's on second, and who does what. I've mentioned this many times on these podcasts here that over the last 2 or 3 years when I was at CES, I always come back and I'm amazed again of seeing even more LiDAR providers, yet very few applications of LiDAR in mass are actually out there. And you wonder, how are all these companies, A, distinguish themselves, but B, survive in a market where, again, you have so many offerings, yet not too many OEMs really have production programs going on with LiDAR. But let's shift for a second to the technology. Let's talk a little bit about, as we reimagine mobility here together, take our listeners and viewers through what you see happen over the last 5 years. So from, let's say, 2020, 2019 to today, how much and how fast has technology advanced? Sensors, you mentioned compute platforms, maybe the ability for simulation. And then let's flip it and look forward instead of backwards, what we're really interested in as we, again, reimagine mobility. What do you see happening over the next 5 years? So a little bit, give us what happened over the last 5 years, how far have we come, and then from your perspective and your company's perspective, where are we going next over the next 5 years?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And maybe I'll take you a little bit of more than 5 years, 10 years, just to set the stage out. When it got started, right, back in the days, 2000 to 2011, we had a very limited sensor and we have a very limited compute platform. And it was a very hand-coded, like we all wrote, like, if this happened, go do this, right? And we did good job, but that's all we could do. That's why I don't say it's a bad thing, right? Because I wrote those codes, so I cannot say bad thing about it. But that's all we had, right? One shift happened in 2015, 2016 is that the AI came along, the GPU came along. All of a sudden, we have a lot more juice, if you will, the processing power. So algorithm improves significantly, right? Third shift happening now, which I love, is that now the cost of sensor going down, right? When I was using back in 2010, LiDAR was still $40,000, $50,000. 2018, 2017 is still $40,000. Now I'm buying LiDAR for $4,000. Much better LiDAR than I used for those $40,000, right? So one of the things happening in the technology, the cost is just going down significantly, which is very good for the consumer, very good for the scale up. Second thing happening is that the AI really now getting to the point where it was fun, it was good, it is working. But the way we use AI, we are saying that let's use the AI, but let's put a boundary around AI in the algorithm, with a deterministic algorithm. This is where our name also came, Safe AI. It's not just us, the whole industry was doing that way. Yes, I'm going to use AI for XYZ, but I'm also going to put a boundary around that with like a deterministic algorithm. Now AI is really shining. So I think what you will see that the cost will go down significantly, which already going down, and your algorithm take another notch up. And that will really give benefit to, in our world, in the heavy industry, what we'll see, they used to pay about $1 million for the hardware kit. Just think about $1 million for a hardware kit because their truck costs $5 million. That $1 million is going to go down less than $100K. And imagine what it does to the consumer, right? The companies are buying, say that instead of paying $1 million, now I'm going to pay less than $100K. The algorithm was good for very simple use case. Now we can say, I can do a lot more complex use case for you. So not only mining, I'm going to do your construction, I'm going to do your cement queries. I can do all those complex because my algorithm went up. So now they can also really expand, because some of those companies are not just a mining company. They are such a big, they do mining, construction, like they're like $100+ billion company. So in our industry, I think at SafeAI, our vision and what we see is going right now about 2 to 5% fleet are autonomous in this world. We want to take it to 40 to 50%. That's kind of where our vision is. But in the passenger and that side, you will see that Waymo is doing a great job. That slowly it will inch up, right? Because of the cost and maturity of technology is increasing.
So you're bringing up a very interesting point. You mentioned data, right? I mean, I've made a statement probably 5, maybe 8 years ago now when Google first came out with their autonomous vehicle. I made this statement. I said, I'm not sure they're interested in becoming an autonomous system provider, but they're doing it because they want the data, because Google at the end of the day is a data company, and how they can take that data and use it as a sensor. It's probably the most powerful sensor in the world because it's a vehicle that drives through all sorts of conditions and collects who knows how much different types of data, and how you can use that to feed it back into your main business, which is search results and revenue derived from providing people with information. In your space, in the heavy truck space, I understand they got to move dirt, they got to plow a field, they got to move concrete from one place to the other. How much of them are actually talking about what should we do with this data that we're collecting as part of the autonomous system that we have installed to allow this equipment to work autonomously? Are people talking about that? And if so, do you have a few examples of companies that are actually doing it, and what is it?
Yeah, and you're right. They are talking about it. I think that's for sure. What they're not doing well is that they're not actually translating the talk into an action. And the reason being, they haven't seen that use of the data actually put into use. And I think our industry still talk about, when they talk about data, they still talk about diagnostics, prognostics, and vehicle upkeep and all the thing. And I tell them those are baby's job, because you haven't seen data yet. One of the things, and I'll give you an example of a construction project. Let's say you have done a $1 billion project of airport rebuilding. Now, Singapore wants to rebuild or expand their airport. They put out $1 billion kind of RFI, if you will, and all the GCs, the general contractor, are bidding for it. One of the thing they do, they have to guesstimate like what will be the cost of that, because this is the bidding process. Today, they do the bidding process all because there is a 5 guy into this 100,000 company, knows how to do this airport bidding, right? And then they update that. Think about, you already have done an airport project before. If you have all the data there, now you can guesstimate so much better, right? And this is where they lose or win money, because if you guesstimate your bidding wrong for $1 billion project, your profit margin can impact. I think this is that's why it is. Now you understand your diagnostic prognostic looks small, and this is where they're going to start using. Like, I have used this project. I know exactly what I ran because my machine are smarter. They're not lying anymore. If they're saying I'm going there, they actually went there. It's not a noisy sensor. I can absolutely use the data to predict my next project. And also it goes to supply chain, it goes to procurement, it goes to people management. literally it will flow through their ERP system. And the beauty of this world is that, bad is that they haven't used the data before, but because they haven't used the data before, the advantage they can get, there's a lot to squeeze. There's a 30 to 40% efficiency they can get because they barely squeeze any juice out of that, like compared to other industry. So I think the heavy industry will see a massive, massive benefit for the data.
Interesting. Yeah, I would agree. So, Bibhrajit, let's take it personal to you. I mean, you've mentioned before you've been involved with DARPA, so that's already many years ago. You've worked with Ford, with many players in the autonomous space, and you're clearly passionate about it. What are you not necessarily Safe AI or your people, but you specifically, what are you mostly excited about seeing happening over the next 5 years? You've talked AI, so maybe it's, even more deep learning, right? Large language models, the combination with the hardware that I still feel is gets a little bit pushed to the side. It's all about AI and the software, but this thing don't run by itself. It needs hardware, so that's still important, right? And I'm excited to see what comes out there. But what are you mostly excited about in this space that we're talking today, personal?
Yeah, and I think my first autonomous drive was in 2008 in a CAT 793. This is a massive big truck. That was my first autonomous truck. I probably, been in autonomous all of the company you think of, right? And I used Tesla since 2016 before it even came out because I had a test vehicle from them, right? I think the experience of actually using autonomy on a day-to-day life, it will fundamentally change. So that's kind of the really excited. Second thing, if you think about transportation as a pillar of society, think about food, transportation, medical, these are pillar of society. We're going to stand on that, right? We're fundamentally change the transportation with autonomy. So I think going back to what this podcast about reimagining, really we will change the fundamental, like 5 to 10 years, how we do transportation, right? And you think about if you change the one pillar of the society such a profound way, it will have a huge impact. And I don't know what that will be, but I'm really excited about where the society will go, because we are touching one of the key pillar of the society that humanity stand on. So that's really exciting. I think technology and all things will happen, but we really will live and do things very differently going forward once this technology is more profoundly actually impacting that pillar.
Yeah. Good one. I like it. So 2 more questions. One, and I think it was a big topic, maybe not as much anymore when EVs first came out. It's still a big topic as it relates to, I think, fuel cell when we talk propulsion systems. I think on the autonomous side, it's still a challenge as well, because I think we're just slowly now getting to a point where people are comfortable with ADAS, and it's all about this consumer acceptance, right? I don't want to talk passenger vehicle. I don't want to talk heavy-duty trucks. I want to talk your space right now, so heavy equipment. And we've talked about these companies that make significant investments in it because see the benefits. How many of those customers, again, are the fleet owners maybe, or the companies? How much acceptance do you see there? How much resistance or uncertainty or skepticism do you still see there? And then what about maybe the operators or the maintenance people that still are somewhat involved, or the people that work besides those autonomous equipments or vehicles? How much afraid or embracing are they to these technologies? Share a little bit about, again, the consumer acceptance point here.
Yeah, and I think there are 3 major kind of the stakeholder, if you will. One is your operator, the people who are actually running this vehicle, doing their job to get their company going. Second is the people who is actually doing the job on the ground. The third is also the government and the government body of that country, right? These are the 3 players has to kind of get comfortable with it. I think the operator level people, like people who are running the company, who are running the site, they have been sold since 2010. There is no CEO or CTO or CIO of a mining company say, I do not want autonomy. Like that debate was done in 2010, 2011. If you look at BHP, Rio Tinto yearly report, you can go all the way back to 2015, 16. They have been consistently saying, I'm getting 10%, 20% productivity improvement. My safety number is 0, right? So they are absolutely sold. I think people at the beginning was skeptic, and I can give you a lot more example. I have seen firsthand while we are doing the integration, but now people are a lot more actually accepting it. And 3 thing is, right, there is a shortage of labor, but second thing is that as the aging population go, the new generation doesn't want to even do that. And I was in a mine in Australia, and I was driving with an operator. She was about early 20s, right? And she's in Australia. Australia pay their operator a very good job. That's why she's doing that. She was like, but I'm not going to do that more than 3-4 years. I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to make my money, and I have my other job, other career. I'm going to do that. This is not I'm going to continue. This is a very good for me to learn this industry. Obviously, Australia mining is big. So I think next generation doesn't even want to do this thing, right? I think so that there is a huge acceptance coming. Maybe there is the people who are now, but that's the older age. Like average age of an operator is over 45 years. It changes. And the third is the government. And you will be amazed, Australia, Canada, US, Latin America, government is super supportive. Now we are in Japan and some of the other countries. Governments are really supportive. They see the benefit. So I think in our industry, the acceptance, these 3 pillars, they're working really closely, and operators already sold. People are getting much more warmer, and the government's actually supporting. So it's a much more positive environment than your passenger side, because this is passenger is a lot different, right? Just because the question comes in, are you going to put your kids in that car, right? That's a very personal, that touches your home, right? It's not a question of business decision anymore. Now you're making a decision with your heart, like, am I going to really put my 2 kids in that car, right? That's a hard decision. That's not a number decision.
Yeah. Very interesting. All right, then, final question to wrap it up. Nothing to do with your industry, but again, with you as we talk mobility and as we reimagine mobility, even for you, what is going to be the next car you're going to buy and why?
Okay, so I'm biased. I'm in Silicon Valley. So my current one is Tesla. So I think my next one is probably going to be Cybertruck. They have a 2-year wait time, which is good. I told my wife, she was like, I will wish their wait time 5 years. I don't want you to buy any more car. But I am very biased with Tesla. I've been driving since 2016. I love it. So probably Cybertruck, if she allows me.
If she allows you. All right, well, everybody has a boss. So
Everybody has to have a boss.
I know how you feel. I'm in the same boat. Very good. Thank you so much for your time and really shining a light, I think, on a sector of the autonomous space that very few people think about. But as you mentioned, amazing maybe to those same people that don't think about it is, well, that's the space autonomous systems have been used probably for the longest, very successfully, as you pointed out. So thank you so much for your insight here, and thank you for contributing.